Okay, the good news is there wasn't a collapse in the AFC South in 2024. The bad news is we saw two teams that have top 5 picks come from this division. Let's break it down. What's going on, guys? Dick's Report here, back to another video. Today we're talking about the AFC South, a division that for 2022 and 2023 had a collapse of a team that had the division all but locked up but couldn't seal the deal. And it looked like it was going to happen again, but it didn't in 2024. The Texans came out with the South. Not only that, they beat the Chargers in the wild card round and gave the Chiefs a good run for their money. But what can we expect during this offseason for 2025? Let's break it down. All right, we're going to start with the Texans. And the Texans, they won the division. They won in the wild card round. Can they take that next step? Can CJ Stroud and this Texans team be true contenders in the AFC? Well, one thing they're going to talk about is wide receiver. Stephon Diggs and Robert Woods are free agents. Not to mention Tank Dell. Tank Dell, he suffered a serious knee injury. Probably not going to play in 2025. And I wouldn't even expect him back for 2026. I mean, this is a very serious injury. Multiple ligaments. It's an uphill battle for him. And you really have to go into that mindset of, can we trust that we will see him back on the field? And I know it's a difficult conversation to have because he's a young guy that had such a promising career, but you have to have this conversation. So wide receiver is definitely going to be a big need. Now, they only have $1.8 million in cap space, so they're going to have to do some maneuvering, but you have a young quarterback and you have a good team around him. You have to make sure that you continue to put good pieces on this team. They're picking 25th overall. Maybe they decide to go the rookie round with wide receiver, but personally, I like bringing in a veteran as a number 2 across from Nico Collins. He's a proven number 1. Get a veteran like a Keenan Allen that's been there for so many years that just wants to get a Super Bowl at this point. Maybe that's where they go. I'm not entirely sure. Also, defensive tackle. Look, Will Anderson is terrific, and they have a great guy across from him, but who's in the middle? Who's taking up those slots in the middle? Also offensive guard. Kenyon Green has been a disappointment since he's been drafted at 15th overall. They have to figure out what they're going to do on the interior of that offensive line. Make sure they are protecting CJ Stroud. You know they have a great left tackle in Tunsil, but make sure that interior is fine as well. Look, the Texans, I still think they have a bright future. I definitely think they can win a Super Bowl in the next few years, but you have to keep putting solid pieces around this team that is already very good. Okay, personally, I don't know where Indianapolis goes from here because it all starts with Anthony Richardson. He just hasn't taken the necessary steps, and he was a project coming out of Florida. We all knew that, and he just should not have been out there so quickly, but he's just not developing the way you want him to be developing. But then again, he was a huge project. So can we see a step in the right direction in year 3? I'm not entirely sure, but the Colts have got to figure this out with Anthony Richardson. Also, look at your tight end position. You need a security blanket no matter who the quarterback is. They need a tight end. Can the tight end from Penn State, will he fall to them? Or are they going to go the free agency route? I don't know, but they need a starting caliber tight end. At linebacker, EJ Speed is a free agent. They have to make sure that that linebacking core is solid. And then on the interior of the offensive line, Ryan Kelly's a free agent. He's been their center for a long time, and now he's a free agent. So what do you do there? Some questions right now for Indianapolis, but it all starts with Richardson. By the way, they have $31 million in cap space, so they're going to be able to make a few moves. And in terms of other free agents, Julian Blackmon's a free agent. Their backup quarterback, Joe Flacco, can be a free agent. So figure out, who do you want to bring in? Do you want to bring Flacco back, or do you want to go with somebody else? And then you have a few tight ends that are also free agents as well. So Indianapolis, they have some decisions to make. They cannot continue to be in this situation. It is the worst position to be in for an NFL team, where you're not good enough to make the playoffs, but you're not bad enough to where you're picking in the top 10. It's the definition of football hell. I don't know what happened with Jacksonville. This team went from winning the division on a playoff game in 2022 to having the division lead and at one point the number 1 seed in 23, then blowing that, and then they were just flat out bad in 2024. And it got Doug Peterson and Trent Baalke fired. although Trent Baalke might have been an addition by subtraction, it almost cost them Liam Cohen. Because he wouldn't go there with Trent Baalke there, and then Baalke got fired, and then Cohen got hired there. And you know what, we can talk a whole lot about stuff like that later, but right now with Jacksonville, there's a lot of questions that need to be answered. First thing for me, secondary. The secondary needs to improve. Andre Sisco's a free agent. He was one of their starting safeties. They need to get a solid secondary on that team. Also, interior of the offensive line. They have some good tackles on that team, but the interior has to be better. All right? Trevor Lawrence, they have to protect him. They got to open up holes in that running game. They have 30 men in cap space, so we are definitely going to see what they do. And with the 5th overall pick, who could fall to them? I mean, could they get Campbell out of LSU? Could Travis Hunter fall to them? The defensive back / wide receiver from Colorado. I mean, that's the lowest I think he's going to fall. I do think he's going to be gone before then, but if he is, I think Jacksonville's just running up to the podium with that card. Also, Brandon Sharif is a free agent. Brandon Sharif, great guard for a long time in this league. Where's he going to go? Can Jacksonville keep him? I'm not entirely sure, and that's why I included interior on the offensive line. So, really for Jacksonville, this is going to be an offseason where get good players and figure out what you need to do to get back to the playoffs. Jacksonville plays their cards right. They could give Houston a good run for their money. Tennessee. What are you going to do with this 1st overall pick? What are you going to do at quarterback? Will Levis cannot be the starter. He had an awful season last year. It didn't help that the offensive line wasn't great, but at the same time, there was a lot of bad decisions made by Will Levis. They need to have a new quarterback. The question is, do they take one 1st overall? If they're not comfortable with one of these quarterbacks going number 1 overall, either Ward or Sanders, then they're not taking a quarterback 1st overall. They're just going to go the free agency route. Could they be the team that brings in Sam Darnold? Could they get Justin Fields? Maybe even Russell Wilson. There's a lot of options that they can use for the quarterback position. But they have to make the right decision. This team needs a quarterback. $42 million in cap space. They'll be able to do something in free agency. Jerome Baker's a free agent. Linebacker. Sebastian Joseph Day's a free agent. Quandre Diggs is a free agent. Tyler Boyd. Mason Rudolph, Dylan Redunce, I hope I said that right, and Nick Westbrook Akeem. Again, I hope I said that right. Sorry if I didn't. So there's a lot of pieces that were on this team last year that played significant snaps that are free agents. And besides quarterback, what else do they need? Well, I mentioned offensive line. On the edge, Harold Landry's been there for a long time, but he cannot do it by himself. They need somebody else that can rush the passer. And wide receiver. Who's their number 1? Well, Calvin Ridley's the number 1. Who else do they have? All right? This is really big for Tennessee. It's a big offseason for them, just like it's a big offseason for Jacksonville. Just find good players and figure everything else out later. That's what I would say to Tennessee. So, the AFC South, a lot of questions that need to be answered. We're going to find out what happens once the offseason rolls around. And that's all I have for the AFC South. Next up going to be the NFC South. And as always, I'll see you guys next time.